2023 Prophecies confirmed definitive guide to the New World Order Earth Matrix Soul Trap latest leak project. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for joining us this special edition of Leak Project. I'm your host, Rex Bear, and during this podcast, I'm going to share with you some Illuminati playing cards that actually came out in 1994. Now, the reason I picked these up is because I've seen on the internet now for years these Illuminati playing cards that actually show certain events that have been portrayed in the media over the past 20 years also. So this is very fascinating. A lot of these cards will literally reflect future events that happen 5, 10, 15, 20 years down the pipe. And I think that certain events that have been portrayed in these Illuminati playing cards are going to happen in the future. Whether or not it's coincidence, synchronicity, magic, sorcery, prophecy, in the know, foretold knowledge, all of the above, none of the above, you're certainly going to see some parallels. And, you know, hey, if you've read the book Art of War, it's an excellent read, and you can see that there's certain pieces of the puzzle in the art of war. I don't know if you really want to call it an art, but there's certain forms and functions that each particular piece have an effect on. So let me share with you guys some of these cards. I picked through, I got a set of 200 cards. Let me share this with you here real quick. Got a pretty good deal on eBay, I'd say. Now, to get the full set, there's over 400 cards. It was like $350. I just didn't want to spend that kind of money, so I picked up 200 cards, and we'll eventually get more. But anyway, in this set, just open it up for you here. And I went through the 200 different cards, and there's some that are called commons, some that are called non-commons, some that are considered very rare, etc. And what I also did was when I picked out each card, I would go to a search engine and pull up parallels. So the first card that I want to share with you today is The Purge. The Purge. Now, The Purge, obviously, there's the film, The Purge. I think there's been like 2 or 3 now that have came out since then, and it portrays literally one night of the year where you can do whatever you want, and that cuts down on crime 100%, because that one night of the year people can let their wild fantasies run amok. Yet, I find it very interesting because in the movie it portrays like people want to kill people and be murderers and just do sick stuff. And I don't really see most people being like that. Do you? I mean, if you could legally kill somebody one night of the year, would you? Is that something you would enjoy doing? I wouldn't. My conscience wouldn't let me do something like that. But hey, you know, I'm not going to judge you. You may have no conscience. So that's the first card that I wanted to pull up, The Purge. Now, remember, this came out in 94. Some people think there could be a Purge-type future, archetype. Some people think it's already here. I mean, if you talk to certain figures in the alternative news scene, in the whistleblower scene, they feel that there's certain Purge-type elements already taking place around the country, with all the different homicides and gang wars, etc. So, very interesting. Now, I don't know what you guys think about the recent elections and how Trump is, is going to be the new president of the United States. Some people feel that there's going to be major change, and there could be. If you look at 8 years ago, why did Obama get in office? Well, his slogan was, "We are change." And when, yes, we can. If you guys ever play Yes, We Can backwards, it literally says, "Thank you, Satan." Look it up. It's pretty interesting. But regardless, 8 years ago, Obama made it in office based on change. He's going to make change. So will we actually see change this time? And that's where I pick up the reorganization card, because if there is change, I see it going from a globalist platform back into a nationalist type platform. Or it could be meet the new boss, same as the old boss. So this is the reorganization card. Now, have you guys heard of Vladimir Zhirinovsky? He is an ally of Vladimir Putin. And if you guys watch the speech of Putin, I think it was the day after or a couple of days after Trump won the elections, he basically praised the elections. He said, yeah, we're willing to go to bat now. We're willing to play with you guys and see where things go, essentially is what he said. Well, this card right here came out in 94, and it's a power card for this guy and this movement. I mean, could this be a foretold event? Well, I mean, it depends on how you look at it. I mean, this is symbolic. This is like a tarot card deck. If you do tarot readings, some people think it's from the devil. Some people think it's just your own mind picking these cards, a part of the universe. All synchronicity connected, quantum physics, etc. All of the above, none of the above. Who knows? I mean, I'm agnostic, but this is a nationalization card. And I think this is all kind of connected with the Trump phenomenon. So it seems like we live in a cyclical environment. A polarity is in place right now. It's a very dualistic world that we live in. It's a action, reaction. For every action, there is an opposite reaction, etc. No good deed goes unpunished. Could that be to keep balance in this matrix that we live in? Is there a reason that there's light and dark to offer an opportunity to see the difference between both? Do we need dark? Do we need evil? I don't know. I mean, these are just some deep thoughts to bring to people's thought processes, I guess you could say. These are just possibilities. I certainly don't want to play the evil card. Are there people that are born to play that part or that role? What do you guys think? Is it all predestined? Is our DNA a part of this universal code that is pre-programmed where somebody's born into this theater per se, and we have to act out our destiny? Or do we get choices? Do we get options? Are there crossroads that we come to that are predestined and we choose which side to take? These are questions that I ask myself quite often. Now, this is the next card that I want to share with you guys, the AMA card. Now, this specific card essentially gets rid of any scientific data that would show progress in holistic type fields. Have you seen the news articles that have come out showing the death trail of holistic doctors that come up with a breakthrough that cures cancer, or they have some incredible information on how there's these certain chemicals in vaccines that lead to cancer, and a week later, a month later, a few weeks later, they'll end up suicided with a very strange, peculiar circumstance surrounding their suicides or their deaths. They're supposedly accidents. There should be some good detectives out there that could pick up this stuff and find out who the real culprits are. And think about this, ladies and gentlemen. If this is legit, if the news and information that's coming out there with all these different deaths of these holistic doctors, if there's a detective that can actually pinpoint and find out who did one of these murders, and if they can link that to a pharmaceutical company or a corporation, could you imagine the consequences? If this is legit, if this isn't all just a big psyop news, hoax, staged events, because we all know we've been hoodwinked over and over dozens of times. No matter how astute and intelligent you are, you've probably been tricked at least a few times in your life, because these powers that be have so much control and influence with the media. It's so powerful, you guys. I mean, just think about what you do. Do you ever think about stuff in the back of your mind like, oh yeah, I mean, I saw that on a TV show, so that's how it should work, or I saw that in a movie? Subconsciously, imagine the films you watch, the cartoons, the TV shows growing up. Think about what kind of impact that has on your subconscious. What you're watching now. Do you go to sleep watching TV? The commercials are programmed to bypass your conscious mind, implanting subliminal messages directly into your subconscious, seeds per se, that they can water and fertilize, that can turn into these giant plants or weeds of destruction, self-destruction. So just be aware of that. So this is the AMA card. And is there a connection of this card to many of these new holistic deaths, holistic doctor deaths? I call it the holistic doctor death trail. Okay. Now, the next card I want to share with you, now keep in mind, this is 1994. This is the Wall Street card. If you guys remember back in 2007, 2008, when we had the giant reset, essentially, it certainly wasn't depression levels. Some people say, oh, we're getting close to a depression. Well, it could happen, absolutely. If you look at the depression, though, completely different time. The technologies were not there that we have today. It wasn't a global connected society like it is today with the internet, etc. So if the satellites stay up, if the internet stays up, if we all stay connected globally, I think that a depression would be less likely unless people just give up and don't look for alternatives, because we have the option now to find wild edibles. We can actually go out, set up homesteads in Alaska if we want to, disappear, get off the grid. There aren't stormtroopers right now on the freeway that are stopping us from going to Alaska. I mean, there might be for some of you, but in reality, most of us can literally get off the grid if we want to. It's, do we want to take that step? Do we want to leave our comfort zone? Do we want to get outside of the grid? Because most of us have a warm roof over our heads. We have food in the fridge. We're comfortable. And we've talked about this before with Leak Project, a slow boil process. Is that the New World Order agenda? To put us in a slow boil pot so by the time we're cooked, it will be too late. These are things to think about. This is all speculation, folks. This is all speculation. I do not claim to have the answers. I'm bringing up theories and possibilities, options, and scenarios. So that's the Wall Street card. Okay. And that also brings me to the new federal budget card. Now, you guys remember the quantum easing. Congress was literally told if they wouldn't sign this new bill and all these emergency funds, then there was going to be martial law. Well, this was talked about in 1994. Now, another thing that I want to bring to your attention, this card game was actually this. Let me bring up some information to you guys that I find pretty interesting here. I'm going to have to pull this up on Wikipedia. So the Illuminati New World Order card game was released in 94 by Steve Jackson Games, based on the original boxed game Illuminati. It was inspired by the 1975 book, The Illuminatus Trilogy by Robert Anton Wilson. Now, some of you might be thinking of Robert Anton LaVey. That's the first thing that came into my head when I read that name. Different individual. This person is an agnostic, at least according to Wikipedia. Now, is Wikipedia the go-to source on everything? No. I mean, take everything with a grain of salt, but if you want to go to Wikipedia, you can read about this. And it's just fascinating, the alignments and the parallels of this card game versus now. So maybe Steve was picking up this stuff subconsciously. I mean, maybe he was just tapping into the Akashic records and it was flowing through him and he was releasing this information on paper. Think of all the artists that have done that before. It doesn't mean that they're bad people. It doesn't mean that they're devil worshippers. They're picking up on something that's there. We all have access to this kind of stuff if we want to tap into it. I'm sure there's been times before where you've tapped into something that you saw happen 5, 10, 15, 20 years, 30 years, 40 years later that you said, man, that thought was in my head a long time ago and now I see it in front of me. So it's all a part of how you want to take this information. It's all about labels. And if you want to go back to, the primordial times in the beginning, do you think that we had all of these words? Because really, if we can be in tune at a psychic level, words don't really matter. Words, in my opinion, do a lot more damage sometimes than good. You can look at a picture and say, oh, that picture paints 1,000 words. Does it paint 1,000 words? And what do those 1,000 words mean to you? So very interesting indeed. Now, another thing that I find fascinating is if you look at the terrorist attacks that have happened in France recently, over the past year or so. There's been a lot going on out there, and this is another card that is in the Illuminati Playing Deck, the France card. You guys remember the Friday the 13th attacks out there and the death metal concert that was going on. Some people think that was another psyop, another staged event. Some people feel it was legit. Maybe it was all of the above, meaning it was a predestined event to take place as a false flag, and maybe the media kind of spun it a little bit, which they usually do to get better ratings and meet certain agendas. So that's the France card that I wanted to bring to your attention. Now, this next one, InfoWars and Alex Jones brought this to our attention a few years ago, and I think they did a real good job on releasing this story. This is the Assertiveness Training card, Now, there was some cardboard cutouts that were sold to Homeland Security a few years ago of grandma with a gun, of a pregnant woman with a gun, of a little boy with a gun, of grandpa pointing a gun at somebody. And they called these specific cardboard cutouts, what do they call these things? The No More Hesitation cutouts. And actually, after this story was released, the defense contractor quit selling these cutouts. I even got into a conversation with a retired detective, former law enforcement agent, about these specific cutouts. And I said, do you find it odd that they sold thousands of these cutouts to Homeland Security people? He said, no, absolutely not. He said, when you're in law enforcement or you're with Homeland Security, you have to look at all scenarios. And even a grandma or a little kid pointing a gun at you, that is a possibility. Yet I look at this as something more than just grandma or grandpa, the occasional grandma or grandpa pointing a gun at you, because of the thousands and thousands of cardboard cutouts that were actually sold at that time. I mean, there were tens of thousands of these cutouts sold, and they literally have a picture of grandma, grandpa, and little kids pointing guns at you. So now the next card that I wanted to bring to your attention, this is, in my opinion, okay, it's called the Midas Mill. And essentially what this is a machine that gets gold from the ocean. And if you guys follow the Anunnaki stories, Zachariah Sitchin, Nibiru, the reason they came to Earth was to get gold for their planet, for the atmosphere, etc. And they thought they were originally going to be able to just come to Earth and harvest all this gold through the ocean, through these machines in the ocean. So is this a PSYOP card? Is this a card that is in play to give people a scenario of why they're here and how they were created? Now, I am still very agnostic on the story of the Anunnaki and the manipulation of mankind. Do I think that our bodies have been tampered with maybe thousands of years ago, tens of thousands of years ago, hundreds of thousands of years ago at a DNA level? Sure, I do. Do I buy the official story of we were made from apes to harvest gold for this alien race? No, I don't. I'm still very agnostic, and I'm also kind of skeptical towards that. Now, if that's your belief, I strongly respect that. That is awesome. I'm in no way judging you. But let me tell you why I disagree with this. This is just my opinion. Once again, these are all opinions, theories, and speculation. But why would a race that can travel the stars and travel the planets and has all of this technology, why would they even need to genetically modify apes to create gold? There would be much more productive, technologically advanced ways to do that, in my opinion. If anything, if our DNA was tampered with, maybe it was for something a lot more valuable than gold. Like our soul energy, our spirit. That's priceless. You can put a fiat currency price tag on gold. You're not going to put a fiat currency price tag on my soul. Or your soul, are you? You might have a price on your soul. There's been many entertainers that have sold their soul for fame and fortune. So either way, I feel, in my opinion, I think that if our DNA was tampered with, it's to keep people in this dualistic matrix, almost as recycled batteries, as an energy source for these, you can call them archons, demons, fallen angels, any name or label you want to put to them, things you can't see, the unknown. The hidden hand. Certainly a possibility and just something to think about. Now, I know you guys remember the attacks of 9/11. This is the terrorist nuke attack on the Twin Towers. Now, this came out in 1994, and obviously that's 7 years prior to the attacks. And a lot of people think that there was tactical type nukes used in the Twin Tower demolition. Some people think that there was more than that used, like electronic type frequency weapons, high powered electronic frequency weapons. Then plus you had the thermite and other stuff that was involved. So there's a lot of possibilities to there. I think that was a pretty good prophecy by the gentleman that made these cards. So now let's think about the protests that have been really pushed in the liberal media. Black Lives Matter. White cop shoots black unarmed man. White cop pushes black girl to the ground. White cop shoots black man, unarmed. It's usually what you hear in the media when there is a gun shooting or a police shooting. There's usually that race bait word verbiage behind it. And I'm sure you guys have noticed that. Now, one, that's going to get more ratings for the news, and so they can charge more money for their advertising. But I think there's more to it than that. In my opinion, there is a subliminal conditioning process involved with that. The Black Lives Matter protesters, I'm sure there's some amazing people involved in that organization. But I think that there's also people at much higher levels that use the Black Lives Matter protesters for their agendas, and they're not helping anybody, especially people that are black. I've got some awesome friends that are black. Who cares what color your skin is? You could be purple, yellow, green. You could be a rainbow color. It really just is based on your actions and where your head is, in my opinion. So you might be completely different in your thought process. But this is the Black Activist card, and I think this represents the Black Lives Matter. Okay, now the next card that I want to share with you guys is the Backlash card. Who does that look like to you? The Backlash card. Now, another thing I want to talk about is the Osama bin Laden, Obama Biden similarities. If any of you picked up one of those bumper stickers back in the day, Obama Biden, and you compare that to Osama bin Laden, What's the only difference, you guys? What's the difference between Osama bin Laden and Obama Biden? There's 2 letters. BS. How do you feel about that? Yes, we can, played backwards, is thank you, Satan, and the supposed mastermind that was behind the 9/11 attacks, Osama bin Laden. Obama Biden, the 2008, yes, we can, we are change sticker on the back of your bumper. Now, is this just a weird similarity? Is this a psyop synchronicity? I don't know. What do you guys think? So that's the backlash card, and you guys can put whatever connections or parallels you want to that. Now, we've often talked about chemtrails, geoengineering, weather modification. Some people think that chemtrails and contrails are the exact same thing. I certainly know the difference between the two. Most of you out there that can think for yourselves can look out in the atmosphere when you see X patterns, checkerboard patterns, and you see these chemicals in large quantities come out of jets and then slowly dissipate. And then you see clouds show up when the skies were blue. And the skies aren't even really blue anymore. If you really look at the skies, they used to be very like a dark, deep, natural blue. Now they're like this metallic, weird blue. I mean, it doesn't even look natural anymore to me. It just seems like with all the nanoparticulates that they've been spraying in the skies and the atmosphere now, it's just at a whole other level. And there's multiple reasons for these chemtrails. I mean, it's not just weather modification. Do I think that it's one storyline? Is it just one plot to poison everybody in the world? No, there's a lot more to it than that. If they wanted to just kill off the population, I mean, it really wouldn't be that difficult with multiple corporations joining hands. If you think about the handful of corporations, mega corporations, I should say, at the top levels that virtually control all the product in the residential, commercial, and industrial communities, even the organic stuff. If they run the labels, oh, well, this was manufactured in China. How easy would it be to put some type of nanotechnology in these organic products that X years down the road could be triggered via some electronic frequency and cause mass die-offs or based upon certain cultures or DNAs, whatever. I mean, the sky is the limit. Technology can be either used against us or for us. So do I think chemtrails are used for that specific reason? No, I don't know. But then if you want to take it a step further, and if you look at all the nanoparticulates that are sprayed in the atmosphere, the barium salts, the different metals that are actually used, those do get lodged into people and animals and produce and the excuse me, and the environment. So maybe they could trigger that down the road. I don't know. I mean, that's certainly a possibility. But take a look at this card right here. The International Weather Organization. Now, if you type in weather modification, the first website that should come up in your search engine is a company that actually is called Weather Modification Inc., and they profit off of seeding the clouds, off of changing the environment. So, once the government controls the weather, they don't even need to go to war with another country. They could cause a drought, they could cause a flood, they could cause a tsunami, they could cause hail damage, tornadoes, hurricanes, etc., and they wouldn't even have to set any troops onto foreign soil. And then here's another card from 1994, the Weather Satellite Modification card, where they control the weather. Who's they? Well, let's look at the elite aristocratic psychopaths, the 0.0000001% that feel they are gods and that they're the gatekeepers of our souls. Now, you guys also remember that very weird tunnel ceremony in Switzerland with the mock sacrifices, the deepest tunnel in the world now in Switzerland. Here's the Switzerland card from the Illuminati Playing Deck, 1994. The security leak card, another programming psyop possibility. Doesn't mean it's not real, but the security leak card. Now, if you think of a couple whistleblowers that have been all over the net, all over the news, all over the media, even movies and TV shows have been made in their name, who do you think of? Eric Snowden, Julian Assange. Now, there's another card out there also of somebody that looks like Julian Assange, and it says, "Stay dead." And that's an Illuminati New World Order card from 1994. This is another card that I feel is pertinent towards today. Frankenfood. The GMOs. 92% of the corn that people eat is genetically modified. GMO corn is in virtually all products. High fructose corn syrup. They've got multitudes of names for it. And genetically modified corn typically is going to have mercury in it because of the amount of Roundup type, glyphosate, mercury type products that are used and sprayed on these corn products 50% of the high fructose corn syrup that has been tested has been found with levels of mercury in it. Frankenfood. Got a couple more cards I'm going to share with you. The Center for Disease Control card. Now, these guys have a lot of play. There's been so many bills passed, so many regulations written that they could pull this card at any time and do mass vaccinations. They don't even have to inject it into your bloodstream now. They can spray it in the atmosphere. Look up CDC aerial vaccine spraying. You can read the white papers, the patents. They've done this before in Australia. I'm sure they've done beta testing here in the US without telling us about it. They've done all sorts of spraying with pesticides. They say that babies are getting small heads because of the Zika virus when there's a much better chance it's because of the chemicals that were sprayed against mosquitoes. You can even read an article, I think it was on the Washington Post. Maybe it was another news reference that said, oh, yeah, there's a good chance that the Zika virus and the deformity of these poor babies that are being born aren't even connected. How do you feel about that, guys? They're spraying you with poison, and they're saying it's for your protection. What are you going to do about it? Here's another card that I wanted to share with you. Secular humanists. Now, I want to be very clear. I don't care what your religious preference is or spiritual preference. If you're a good person, if you have the right intentions, you can worship whatever you want. That's my opinion. I'm not going to judge you based on that. The reason I'm showing you this card is because if you look at many of the new religious pushes that are out there today, for example, the Church of Satan, they'll take Baphomet and portray Baphomet as Satan. And I'm not even going to get into whether Baphomet is good or bad or neutral or both or just an allegory for multiple symbols. But certain organizations use that symbol as something dark or nefarious or for their purposes. So just look at the unveiling of the Baphomet statue in Detroit. And also how, I don't know if they ever did officially do this, release the Baphomet statue in Oklahoma City. At the courtroom out there, at the courthouse, I should say. So the secular humanists. So he picked up on that too in this card set. The last card that I'm going to share with you tonight before we close out here on the Leak Project is one called 1,000 Points of Light. And what this card is essentially in the water supply, they put chemicals into the water supply to calm down the masses. So I know in Japan, they've been doing stuff like putting lithium in the drinking water for years. You know, fluoride's been in drinking water here in the U.S. for years. We all know that there were concentration camps that used mass amounts of fluoride in the water to make the people docile, care less, basically give up, to calcify the pineal gland and eliminate a lot of these spiritual aspects as well. There's a whole multitude of things that fluoride does to the body, changing the DNA at a molecular level. So on top of fluoride, let's add lithium and other additives. And so I pulled up an article that was actually, let me get this here real quick. Lithium in drinking water. If you go to ncbi.mlm.gov, lithium in drinking water and the incidences of crimes, suicides, and arrests related to drug addictions. Well, according to this, using data for 27 Texas counties from 1978 to 1987, it is shown that the incidence rates of suicide, homicide, and rape are significantly higher in counties whose drinking water supplies contain little or no lithium than in counties where water lithium levels ranging from 70 to 170 micrograms. The difference remains statistically significant. So essentially what they're saying is it's good to put lithium in the drinking water because it will make you docile and you will be much more calm and everybody will be kumbaya and we're all going to be happy, hold hands, and live happily ever after. So this is some pretty powerful stuff. Now, over the next couple weeks, I've got a lot going on. We're possibly going out to Missouri. I'm going to have an opportunity to check out the My Ozark Homestead location out there that I've talked to you guys about, and that thing is moving extremely fast. They've got there an old submariner that used to be in the Navy, real nice guy. some people that are very intelligent that have worked with different organizations in the military, etc. So I'm looking forward to going out there. We've got some new equipment coming in. We've got a pretty cool drone that we're saving up for that'll actually follow me around. So when we're going on scene, that thing can follow me behind and I don't have to have a camera crew with me. So there you go. It's been awesome to speak with you guys. Really appreciate all your support. Make sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel, youtube.com/clandestine time lord. You'll have access to over 350 full featured podcasts, absolutely free. And if you want access to our premium content, we've got leakproject.com. Become a contributing member. You get access to exclusive content. We're updating that daily also. And pick up your high resolution vinyl limited edition decal today for $10. That's my shameless plug. This is Rex Bear. Be the change you want to see. Talk to you soon. Illuminati New World Order Playing Cards 23 Prophecies confirmed definitive guide to the New World Order Earth Matrix Soul Trap latest leak project. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for joining us this special edition of Leak Project. I'm your host, Rex Bear, and during this podcast, I'm going to share with you some Illuminati playing cards that actually came out in 1994. Now, the reason I picked these up is because I've seen on the internet now for years these Illuminati playing cards that actually show certain events that have been portrayed in the media over the past 20 years also. So this is very fascinating. A lot of these cards will literally reflect future events that happen 5, 10, 15, 20 years down the pipe. And I think that certain events that have been portrayed in these Illuminati playing cards are going to happen in the future. Whether or not it's coincidence, synchronicity, magic, sorcery, prophecy, in the know, foretold knowledge, all of the above, none of the above, you're certainly going to see some parallels. And, you know, hey, if you've read the book Art of War, it's an excellent read, and you can see that there's certain pieces of the puzzle in the art of war. I don't know if you really want to call it an art, but there's certain forms and functions that each particular piece have an effect on. So let me share with you guys some of these cards. I picked through, I got a set of 200 cards. Let me share this with you here real quick. Got a pretty good deal on eBay, I'd say. Now, to get the full set, there's over 400 cards. It was like $350. I just didn't want to spend that kind of money, so I picked up 200 cards, and we'll eventually get more. But anyway, in this set, just open it up for you here. I went through the 200 different cards, and there's some that are called commons, some that are called non-commons, some that are considered very rare, etc. And what I also did was when I picked out each card, I would go to a search engine and pull up parallels. So the first card that I want to share with you today is The Purge. The Purge. Now, The Purge, obviously, there's the film, The Purge. I think there's been like 2 or 3 now that have came out since then, and it portrays literally one night of the year where you can do whatever you want, and that cuts down on crime 100%, because that one night of the year people can let their wild fantasies run amok. Yet, I find it very interesting because in the movie it portrays like people want to kill people and be murderers and just do sick stuff, and I don't really see most people being like that. Do you? I mean, if you could legally kill somebody one night of the year, would you? Is that something you would enjoy doing? I wouldn't. My conscience wouldn't let me do something like that, but hey, you know, I'm not going to judge you. You may have no conscience. So that's the first card that I wanted to pull up, The Purge. Now, remember, this came out in 94. Some people think there could be a Purge-type future, archetype. Some people think it's already here. I mean, if you talk to certain figures in the alternative news scene, in the whistleblower scene, they feel that there's certain Purge-type elements already taking place around the country, with all the different homicides and gang wars, etc. So, very interesting. Now, I don't know what you guys think about the recent elections and how Trump is going to be the new president of the United States. Some people feel that there's going to be major change, and there could be. If you look at 8 years ago, why did Obama get in office? Well, his slogan was, "We are change." And when, yes, we can. If you guys ever play "Yes, we can" backwards, it literally says, "Thank you, Satan." Look it up. It's pretty interesting. But regardless, 8 years ago, Obama made it in office based on change. He's going to make change. So will we actually see change this time? And that's where I pick up the reorganization card, because if there is change, I see it going from a globalist platform back into a nationalist type platform. Or it could be meet the new boss, same as the old boss. So this is the reorganization card. Now, have you guys heard of Vladimir Zhirinovsky? He is an ally of Vladimir Putin. And if you guys watched the speech of Putin, I think it was the day after or a couple